going to hatch some chicks.
Awesome. We're going to learn how to hatch some chicks. Okay. Hey guys, today we're going to start incubating a new flock of chickens, so I thought I would take you through the process in case you want to try to hatch your own eggs. It's great to do with kids. It's a fun project, and it's something good that you can do because when you buy them already hatched, they're pretty expensive, and when you kind of get your own flock or your own combination that works well for you and your climate, environment, situation, sometimes you just want to keep that going. And it's really easy to do. So the first thing you're going to want to do is start collecting your fertilized eggs from your own chickens, or you can buy them or order them or collect from friends. We have, many people in our church that, raise chickens and things, so they kind of all come together and swap and share. So I'm actually going to be incubating quite a lot to pass around. You want them to be as clean as possible. It's better if you don't wash them because there's a natural bloom on them, which is like a bacterial covering, like the probiotics in your stomach, that protects against sicknesses and bad bacteria. So the more you can keep that intact, the better. However, if they're very dirty, you do better to go ahead and wash them because they need to be able to breathe. They will be smothered if the egg is too dirty. When you want to hatch, collect every day so you can get them as fresh and as clean as possible. If you have to wash it, do not use soap. Just use a little water and do it as gently as you can. Get the dirt off. A little dirt won't hurt it, but if it's caked, you do need to get that off. But try to avoid wetting if you don't have to. They still will hatch, but it does lessen the health and the likelihood that they'll hatch. So you want to optimize that as much as you can. You also want to hatch them within a week of collecting. After a week, 7 to 10 days, the hatchability reduces. They can still hatch. I have hatched some that were collected for very long periods of time. But to get the best hatch rate, you want to try to start hatching within a week of collecting your eggs. When you put your egg in your incubator, depending on the kind of incubator that you have, some incubators you just set them in on the side and that's fine. If you have to turn them manually yourself, you're going to want to put like a cross or an X on one side and an O on the other so that you know which side, because they need to be turned 2 to 3 times a day. That keeps them from sticking to the membrane. It helps the chick to develop properly. If you have an incubator that they sit into these little carton kind of things, then you're going to want to make sure that you put it with the pointy side pointing down. There's an air pocket that develops around the broad side of the egg, and you want that to be at the top so that the chick is properly oriented to be able to start coming out when it's time for it to hatch. So pointy side down. If you have ordered your eggs and they came in shipping and they might have gotten tousled around a bit, you want to put them in a carton pointy side down for about a day before you put them in the incubator so that everything can settle and the air bubble can come back to the top where it's supposed to be. So it's that simple. There's not a lot to it. Pick your eggs, pick the cleanest ones, clean them if you have to, but with nothing else but water. Dry them, put them in your incubator pointy side down, and you need your incubator to stay around 100 degrees, and you need a lot of humidity in that incubator. It can be around 50% early on, but as you go further along, it needs to be upwards of 75% or more. So you need to keep it very humid. But since we're just starting, we'll go through the process as we go. We're just going to set them in our holders. You can buy these little holders for your incubator. They're made of plastic. I didn't have any on hand at the moment and I didn't want to wait, so I just cut the bottom out of some egg cartons, and that works too. Just something to hold them into position where the broad side is up and the pointy side is down. If you have any extremely large eggs or any misshapen eggs that are kind of strange or any super tiny eggs, you might want to leave those out. Little ones will hatch little chicks. That's really the only difference. Really big ones tend to have a little bit less of a hatch rate. And if they're misshapen, then there can be problems when the chick develops with the air bubble being in the right place. Alright, my incubator pretty much does everything for me, but not all incubators are the same, so just make sure they stay humid, make sure they get turned, make sure that they stay at 100 degrees or more. But even if your incubator does everything for you, you still need to check it every day and make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's always a good idea to plug your incubator up the day before you're going to put your eggs in and let it run. Make sure it's maintaining a steady temperature, make sure everything's working the way that it should. Unplug it and let it cool overnight and then start them the next day. Don't start your eggs in an already warm, humid incubator because it can cause them to crack because the temperature changes, and it's just not really good for them, or it can cause them to sweat on the inside. So it's best to bring them at room temperature, your incubator at room temperature, let everything start together and let them gradually warm up together and let the humidity build together. So we're starting, my incubator holds somewhere around 300 eggs. So we're going to start and see what we come out with. The top one are mine, these are from somebody else, and the last one was from a friend who said that he had been collecting for a while. They weren't that fresh. We don't know how well they're going to do, but as a little experiment, and because we have the room, and because it takes the same amount of effort to hatch 300 chicks as it does to hatch 3 chicks, we're just going to see. So they might not have such a great hatchability rate because the eggs are a little older, but we're just going to go with it and see what happens. But these are fresh and they should give us a good hatching. So let's go through the process. All right, another thing you're going to have to do, especially if your incubator has an air circulation system that's like a warm fan blowing on it, you don't want to dehydrate your eggs. And dry up that membrane on the inside. So at least once a day, you're going to want to come with a little water spray bottle mist and just lightly mist over the top of all of your eggs. Another thing is that after the first week, you can start candling your eggs. And that's basically, I mean, they used to use candles, so it's called candling, but it's basically just putting a light against the egg to see through the egg a little bit to see if the embryo is developing. And the reason for that is because if it's unfertilized, it can begin to rot and even explode in your incubator, which smells like rotten sewage poo death, and it's really bad. So if you can avoid that, you want to avoid that, plus it introduces bacteria into your eggs. So different eggshells are going to be harder or easier to see through. Your white eggs are the easiest to see through. But you can see a little bit through pretty much any kind of egg, and typically, as long as you can see veins, then that's signs of life and of growth and of development. It is possible for the chick to die before it comes to full term, though that's not all that common. So if you have an eggshell that's particularly thick, dense, or dark, and it's hard to see through it, and you can't see full movement, as long as you can at least see some veins, that's a pretty good sign that it's alive and viable, and you could just leave it alone. But I'm going to take you into a dark room and kind of show you what that looks like when you put the light through that chick, and of course you can start doing that anytime after the first 7 days. See the little chick? See, and I just have a headlight. You can even do this with your phone usually. And I'm just shooting the light right down into the air sac. You can see the veins. The chick put his head down. Let me turn the egg around. All right. It's day 19. On day 18, I stopped rotation. And as you can see, we're not to 21 days yet. Sorry, that heater fan is probably making some noise. So I doubt you'll be able to hear it, but we're already getting a little bit of, out of focus, hatching. And if I take, shouldn't disturb it, but for your sake, I can reach out where I can see it a little better. If I hold it close, you would actually hear it chirping. I don't know if you can because of the heater fan noise. But you're hearing chirping. There's more than one starting to hatch. So we're gonna keep a close eye on this for the next several days. All right, can't open this long because it's a little chilly out here. But within 24 hours of seeing your first peck marks, you should have your chicks being birthed. Some will come quickly, some can take up to 24 hours. It's best not to help them be born because they need the struggle to properly develop. But sometimes you do have to help them. But typically the rule is, oh, looky, looky, we got one. That kind of fell out a little. Oh, we got a guy up there coming out right now. But typically the rule is that let them try to struggle on their own for the first 24 hours. Leave them in here till they're completely dry before you move them to your little brooder, however long that takes. But if you have one that's exhausted or struggling too much, and you have to, you can help them, but typically you want to go ahead and just let them try on their own for the first 24 hours. Unless you see blood or signs of injury, then you might need to take them out and help them. Checking it out there, Rev. You checking on those little chicks? They're just all being hatched all over the place. Look at that, popping up everywhere. Today is day 21. We had a lot hatch during the night, and many are hatching right now. And somebody is very curious. Sometimes you have to help them, not very often. You curious too, huh? I'll show you a different video on what to do if you have to help them to be hatched, because it's going to take a little too long to add it to this one, so I'll do a separate video after this. Hatching your own chicks is definitely a lot less stressful on the chicks. Have a much better survival rate. Of course, when that's shipped through the mail, most of that gets killed, squished, stressed, sick. I got a kangaroo pocket full of little chicks right here. Trying to keep them warm as I transport them into their heated brooder. Keep them between 90 and 100 degrees. Keep them warm, keep them dry, and they'll be all right. Here, Shy. Put him some food. You can just pour it right there in the hay, that's fine. Spread it around, different places. Different places? Okay. They're so cute, huh?
Yeah.